You're all set.
All set? Okay, good. Well, I'm Craig Olsen. I'm the director of Peace Valley Nature Center, and this is our deer exclusion area. And why we have this is because inside there, I see it a little bit as almost like a little bit of a Noah's Ark. We're trying to keep our native plants in there protected from the deer, because the deer they love to eat the native plants, but they don't like to eat the invasive plants. And so what we're trying to do is have a little safe spot for them so that the deer don't get to them. And then also on top of that, we're trying to get rid of the invasive plants that are inside there so that people can come and see. This is what you should be seeing at the Nature Center, rather than what we have in front of us here, which is what your project is trying to get rid of this Japanese Stiltgrass. At least, obviously, you're not going to get rid of much of this because it's everywhere. It covers our property. We have, for the Nature Center, roughly 365 or so acres that's considered Nature Center. The rest of it is part of the park area down to the west of us. But we want to at least try to have an area that has the natives, and try, in this little corner over here, we're going to try to get, in the next time or two that you're here, to try to get rid of this Japanese Stiltgrass. It was brought over here as packing material, and from like in the early part of the century, or I should say in the early 1900s. And then what happened is that as time went by, it kept spreading. It was originally in ports like in New York and places like that, and it just kept spreading and spreading and spreading until it's finally made its way here. We had it here about probably 10-15 years ago for the first time, and it took a very short time before it spread, and it's now, as you can see, it really covers so much of our property. It's not only in this spot that we have here off of this trail, but it's really everywhere on the property. The concern that we have is that the animals that live here, because it is an invasive plant, it's not native, the animals that live here are not going to be eating this, which is very true. If they were, then they wouldn't have any problems with food. But the problem is that they won't eat this kind of a plant, and they eat the native plants. But what happens is when you eat the native plants, usually these will be the first things to take over, these invasive plants, because they're very opportunistic. So it's just a really vicious cycle that you get into. And hopefully this little Noah's Ark kind of thing will help us out, because we are looking in ways to solve the problem, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to take a lot of political will to deal with the deer, and then after the deer situation is handled, then we would have to be able to have some way to be able to get rid of the invasive species, and that's going to be quite a project, because this is a huge property and it's everywhere. But anyways, inside the compound though, we have a number of things that we've planted. Like I said, there are various trees, shrubs. Some of them that we have here, like arrowwood, is a native. We have some phlox that we're going to be putting in. A lot of different things that are native. Some of the dogwoods. Just a lot of variety. Try to do what nature would have done. And then once we plant these plants in here, we're going to be getting rid of, at least over in this corner here, I'm going to be having you get rid of the stiltgrass. Try to get it, usually I talked to some of the people at Bowman's Hill Wildflower Preserve, and they do theirs usually towards the end of July and early August. And as I was reading and researching, I had heard earlier that we could do it in mid-July. And I think that still is holding true, but from what I was understanding, it's better to wait till towards the end. But I think we should have a window here where we'd be okay mid-July to be able to get this out of here in this area. So that's what we're shooting for the second part. So the first phase is just simply planting natives. Second phase is going to be, you're going to be taking out in this corner over here a lot of the Japanese Stiltgrass as much as we possibly can. And then we'll see how that works. It's a process, because from what I've understood, you can pull this for a number of years. It's usually anywhere between 3 to 5 years before you finally actually get rid of that, because it unfortunately just keeps seeding. And then we're going to have to deal with this out here. But I thought, well, we'll just start a little bit at a time. Anytime the groups come here that would like to volunteer, we'll tell them, hey, we'd love to have you come if they came after. Because you don't want to do it too early, because if it's like in June, which we're in right now, we don't want to do it now, because if it goes to seed and drops seeds, then that's not going to work. It's just going to keep spreading. So that's why they want it a little bit later in the season. But that's basically the gist of what we're doing here, and I'm really glad you guys are here helping us out, because if we didn't have this help, it would just simply get worse. We would like to try to see our habitat get back to the way it should be. All these different natural communities should be full of native plants and not the invasives. Other invasives that we've had problems with here have been multiflora rose, which is this one that's right behind us here with all the large prickers on it. And that one was brought over in the 20s from the agricultural department. They thought it would be a great idea to have a natural fence line, and but what they didn't realize is that the birds were going to be eating the berries, and they were spreading the plants everywhere. And what happened too is that none of the animals, again, they weren't eating the branches or the leaves. Deer might eat it in a rare occasion, from what I've been researching, but it's usually not taking. I mean, they usually don't eat it because it is just very difficult for them to digest, and it's rough on them with all the prickers and things. They're getting it on their nose and other sensitive areas. They don't want to have to try to fight it. It's also a risk of, with the thorns in there, of getting their eye. So multiflora rose is a real pest, and we've already taken care of most of it in the compound there. There is still some of the rose bush in there, but we've had a succession of groups that have come and taken it out. And it's been really nice to see, because a lot of the native shrubs, like the ones that we're going to be planting, have been able to finally gain some ground and get back and start to grow inside here. So that's another one that we've had. We've also had autumn olive, which is also known as Russian olive. That one's not quite as pesky, but that one's one that we've had a problem with. We've also had lesser celandine, which when you come here in the spring, it'll just cover especially near our stream areas there, it'll cover areas. It looks beautiful, has these pretty yellow flowers, but it just chokes everything else out. Again, the natives don't have much of a chance when they just cover them. So we don't have as many of the flowers that we should have, like your trout lilies and spring beauties and things like that. They should be the flowers that are coming up, not the lesser celandine. And another one that we've had problems with, let's see, that was the celandine. Yeah, I guess that's the main one I'm thinking off the top of my head. But oh well, yeah, we do have, like you can see over here, you have the honeysuckle too, and that one's also considered invasive. It's not really belongs here, and it's really spreading everywhere. So we have our hands full here. We have an awful lot of these invasive plants that have come and made it difficult for the animals that are living here. And speaking of living here, people, when they come to a place like this, they think, gee whiz, it's got all this green. Why would any of the animals here have any trouble living? Our deer are actually not getting the nutrition that they should be, because there's so many invasives now, and so many of the natives are gone, that they're not able to get the food that they need to survive. So our deers, I personally think that over the years it seems like they've actually shrunk a little bit in size, which is a sign of stress. They're not getting, it's almost like the island kind of effect, but they're not getting the type of food that they should have in the nutrition. So it's just a casual observation. I don't have any really evidence behind it, but it just from the years of me being here, I've been here 22 years, and it just seems to be that I've been noticing that more and more, that it just seems like they're smaller than what we once had seen. So that's, like I said, sign of stress. But you're here to help us out, and this is your second time out with the plants, so that's the first step. And then once we get these in, the next time around we'll be getting rid of the stiltgrass here. So appreciate that very much. Thanks.